Because Mean Gene, it's all in the stroke, brother.
I have heard that.
He hit him with a mummy. He hit him with a mummy.
Why me? Why me? Smells like manure. That's the wall up there, brother.
What the hell is going on?
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of The Worst There Was, a podcast where we plumb the depths of wrestling's awful, awful past. As always, you're joined by your two hosts. First of all, I'm Alan Irwin, and over there is
Ronan Linsky.
Ronan Linsky, two wrestling fans. As you know, we've talked about this in the intro episode, and you already probably know what we're talking about today, which is WCW Fall Brawl 1999, as we kick off our deep dive into the first Vince Russo era in WCW, which you don't know much about him.
No, I mean this is all new to me. I was very much not watching WCW at all, good or bad.
Did you just, were you like WWF?
I don't know, where was it on?
Channel 5.
So it was very easily accessible. Yeah. I mean, I was already developing insomnia from watching WWF pay-per-views, so I probably was, yeah.
See, weirdly, WCW pay-per-views were never shown over here. So
they weren't on Channel 5.
Nitro and Thunder were on TNT, which was on after the Cartoon Network, and Worldwide, which was like a highlight show, was on every Friday night in Channel 5, but they never showed pay-per-views. I don't know why.
Not even, they weren't available on any, you couldn't buy them anywhere, basically.
Yeah, well, you get them on. I remember I bought a video of Super Brawl 2000 because it said on it that Terry Funk and Ric Flair had a death match, and I was thinking like a Sushi Onita sort of exploding ring.
Yeah,
it was not that.
No,
I would have known that.
Nothing exploded. No,
well, maybe a couple of hips, but that was about it. Okay, let's talk about this. This is Fall Brawl 1999. This was the last pay-per-view before Russo comes in. Eric Bischoff had been fired as WCW president 2 days before. Company had been taken over by Bill Bush, who's irrelevant really, but he was not a wrestling guy. So
Bischoff is officially gone. This is not.
He's gone. Yeah, he's actually, shoot gone.
Yeah.
So the booking committee has like Kevin Nash, Kevin Sullivan, Dusty Rhodes on it, but Bush knows he's not a wrestling guy, so he's thinking about getting somebody in, which will end up being Vince Russo. But we're not there yet. Instead, we're going to talk about this show. This show, I think, in a lot of ways shows why WCW was a mess.
Yeah,
it has a lot of those.
It has the feel. Now, we'll obviously get into it. I enjoyed elements of it. So, some of the things I'd read about WCW, maybe I was expecting a lot worse.
Right. So, you were worried that it was going to be unwatchable.
Yeah. I think I'd muddled up WCW with some sort of Jim Cornette booking system. I think I was expecting something cartoonish.
And nobody has to fuck the promoter's wife in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, okay, so this is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. There's 7,491 people in the building, but only 3,347 paid.
What were all the other people doing there?
They just got free tickets.
They
weren't selling.
They went out to school or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
We had that for, when I was at school, we had that for Shaggy, I think. I think it was Shaggy. No, it was Craig David.
Craig David.
Didn't really. Well, weirdly, I'm not mixing them up. I have seen both of them. That's what I mean. I couldn't decide whether I went to Shaggy for free or Craig David for free.
Neither's great, really.
Yeah, but I paid for Shaggy and I went to Craig David for free. Famously doesn't play on a Sunday, but this was a school day, and they came out to our school and they were like, "Here you are, kids, come." Yeah, which now, that's.
Well, so just to give you an idea of how far they've fallen, first of all, this is a week before ECW does their Anarchy Rules show, which sells 6,000 tickets, and ECW is obviously a lot smaller than WCW. Yeah. Also, the 2 years before, they'd done the Fall Brawl in the same venue and sold it out 11,000 paid tickets.
Of real people.
Yeah, real people. Not great. So WCW pay-per-views, they're the same length as WWF pay-per-views, but they feel a lot longer.
That felt quite long.
Yeah,
now just you're talking about, I kind of want to go back and rewatch it with the knowledge that there was 3,000 plus people there that hadn't paid, just to see if when the camera panned past them, you could pick them out. Be like, that person's woo is inauthentic.
Yep, 100%.
It felt, you watched it in one sitting or two?
Well, I watched it in one sitting.
Okay, I did. I broke it up, yeah.
You had to,
I had to a wee bit, yeah. Which was kind of nice to break it in half a wee bit, just to be like, I'll pick that back up in the morning.
Yeah. Or maybe never.
Yeah.
As many fans of WCW did at the time. Okay, so we start off with, this is always an area I think where WCW isn't as good as WWF, is their promo packages just aren't, It just kept going like, who do you trust?
Yeah.
Who do you believe? It made me think of, like those ads they did against the Tories did against Tony Blair in the 1987 election. It was like with the evil eyes.
The evil eyes, yes. Yeah.
And they sort of show, it's recapping the Hogan Sting thing. Did you notice as well, there's a bit where it looks like Sting gets injured by a plastic bin? The lights go out.
Yeah.
It's like a plastic bin.
So anybody's totally out cold.
Oh, he's out cold. And it's,
so the lights went out for what? A couple of seconds?
Yeah.
And Lex Luger, Hulk Hogan, and was there a third man?
I think Bret Hart.
Yeah. And basically, I saw that, but I didn't see. So it was like a big dumpster or just a regular.
Well, the thing is, even if a big dumpster hit you, it wouldn't knock you out.
Well, it'd be awkward, wouldn't it, to do that to someone, because they'd have to get it up. It would take all three men to do that.
Yeah, so this is the kind of the standard of backstage segments that we're dealing with here.
Sting was taken unaware, so he wasn't on full power. He was
that's what it was. Yeah,
I'm out cold. And he heard them all discussing who did it. Was that basically what happened? They were like, which one of us was that?
Which one of us was that? So the whole storyline is like, Hogan was a heel until very recently. Mm-hmm. So it's like, can you trust him, or is he still a heel?
Yeah.
And Luger, who they always did a storyline in WCW where in real life Luger and Sting were mates. So they kind of had the thing where even when they were good guys or bad guys, they were still friendly. So Luger's going, you can't trust Hogan. And Hogan's going, you can't trust Luger, brother, or whatever. This will be a recurrent thing through this. You can do impressions of people and I cannot.
I haven't worked on any, but
no, we'll see how we go.
You basically mean I can do an impression of Steven Regal.
Yeah, I've never been a troll. What is it? No, I can't do it.
I wouldn't break the rice on a custard cream.
What? The skin on a rice?
That's not even the right dessert. Yeah, the rice on a custard cream, famously absent.
So, loads of fireworks go off. I always think their pyro looks pretty good, but I'm not so sure about the big cardboard Fall Brawl logo. Yeah. It looks a bit cheap.
What were they going for? Sorry to roll back. What were they going for in the background of that? Was it like a Y2 year?
Yeah, it was like computer
glitching. But it just said words like Hogan and Sting and WCW.
And
like
trust.
Yeah. They were going for the millennium thing. Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of that at this sort of era of wrestling.
Yeah.
Like all the companies like, here, it's the millennium. Come on, we're cool.
Well, we're all talking about it,
I mean, they called Sid Vicious the Millennium Man, but we'll get to him.
Yeah.
The Millennium Man.
Yeah. That implies some sort of intelligence.
Well, it also, nothing encapsulates the 21st century, like a blonde, curly mullet. Pyro all goes off, the crowds, woo, as they do. So on commentary tonight, we've got Tony Schiavone, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Mike Tenay. So how do you feel about them?
I mean, I don't know who was the last guy. I didn't know.
Mike Tenay.
What's he?
So he was always on as like the stats guy, and he would know the histories of the Mexican and Japanese wrestlers. Okay. Things like that. He then became the lead commentator for TNA for 15 years.
That's why I've never seen him before.
Oh, well, we're going to get to that one day. Don't worry.
Yeah,
we're going to have a great time with
that'll be
Big
season
Mike.
10 of this podcast.
Yeah.
But I enjoy Schiavone, Bobby the Brain, always good, you know.
What I will say is WCW pay-per-view shows always did this, and I don't like it, where, if you watch like a WWF pay-per-view, still now, the fireworks go off, the commentators talk for about 5 seconds, and then first entrance straight into the first match. WCW always ran down the card.
They told us the whole event.
Yeah, they were like, oh, here's everything that's happening, blah, 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 and then the first match. And I was thinking you lose all the momentum of like the fireworks and the crowd being excited, and then it's just like, so at some point tonight, we'll see Brian Knobbs.
Yeah.
It's not.
They're almost running down. They're almost overselling the end to get you to stay. And you're like, I'm watching the start.
But also, like, we in real time, we've bought this. You've got our money. It's a pay-per-view. We're not going to change the channel.
They're pitching to you, like, please don't turn off. You're like, you won't know. We've already, Maybe the people in the arena were hearing that, the 3,000 that hadn't paid for the tickets.
They're like, Hulk.
Sting is coming later.
Who's Hulk Hogan?
That guy from the Police is doing a couple of songs at the end. But
I wondered how long it would take before we did our first Sting joke, and it was about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's good.
But yes, no, my childhood memory, well, I mean, even just current pay-per-views, but is fireworks go off. Jim Ross is getting it all hyped up. They're both, and then you just hear a bell. Like you hear like almost like first match, and you're ready. And then you also go, I wonder who this is going to be, rather than going, oh, they've told us, and now here it is.
No, it doesn't. So okay, well, speaking of opening matches, match number 1 is a 6-man tag. It's Vampiro and the Insane Clown Posse, made up of Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope, against the Filthy Animals, who are made up of Rey Mysterio Jr. I have to include the Jr. because it's WCW, Eddie Guerrero, and Kidman. So the Filthy Animals are really over. Like, people love them, and I can see why, because that's a great team. Like,
because they're actually brilliant. Yeah.
And on the other side, you've got like two big lads and Vampiro, who's got his makeup done like he's in My Chemical Romance or something.
He looks quite sad, doesn't he?
It's not good. Also, I looked it up. In this match, Eddie Guerrero is the same age as me.
Right. Okay.
And I don't look like that.
No, I mean, I'm looking at you right now and I can just, even with the t-shirt on, I'm like, that's not under there.
Yeah.
Well, and he was doing a lot of pec bouncing.
Yeah.
Eddie does a lot of like, and I'm always going, is that like, whenever I see wrestlers doing that, I'm like, do they know they're doing it? Or are you, when you get to a certain stage of muscles, do you just twitch?
Twitching all the time?
Yeah, like have you got like a nervous problem?
I wouldn't know personally.
Yeah, no, I've never.
So is this, I'm sure you've seen pictures, but I presume this is the first time you've seen Rey Mysterio without his mask.
Yeah, well, I've seen pictures. It's the first, I mean, I knew that he was a little boy and he still is a little boy. And even his son Dominic now is like towering over him. And like, you know, why does he adopt Billy Kidman's dress code?
That I don't know. I think it's just like to be like,
Billy Kidman did that, yeah.
Yeah, we're a tag team, we're the same.
I'll take this, yeah.
Because Billy Kidman originally wore the white vest because he was meant to be like a heroin addict. It was a very dark
thing. In ECW, was it?
No, in WCW, when he was in Raven Flock. He kept rubbing his arms because there were all the veins had collapsed. It was very dark. But like, Rey Mysterio lost his mask to Kevin Nash, I want to say, earlier in the year because they thought he had a very marketable look.
Yeah.
I think the marketable thing is selling millions of masks.
Yeah, not kids being like, I want to wear a mask. Like if
I want to wear dungarees and do the Bronco Buster.
If they sold a mask of his face, kids would be like, I want to look younger. I want to have less chance of being served alcohol.
How do you feel about the ICP?
Oh, I mean, again, all I think of is that terrible music festival with Limp Bizkit where people got attacked. I'm not even sure they're involved, but they look like they were.
Well, they're also it's the Gathering of the Juggalos, isn't it? You call their festival? Which always had wrestling every year. They briefly had their own wrestling company. Called Juggalo Champion Shit Wrestling.
Right, Juggalo Champion shit, and the idea was the wrestling was shit, or is it Juggalo shit?
I don't know, because like
Juggalo shit
wrestled for them.
Are they saying Juggalo shit, like as in like this is Juggalo shit, or are they using the word shit as a
that's probably
pejorative term of like?
To be honest, we've said shit so many times there, it's lost all meaning.
The podcast is not on the red list of kids won't be able to download this.
Well, I don't think there's much of an audience for ICP matches for children. The start of the match, there's so much stalling, like they just wander about. No, which I assume is because the ICP can't do very much.
Yeah,
but they must be so sweaty in that gear.
Yeah,
wrestlers are sweaty in their pants.
Yeah,
and they're wearing like hockey jerseys and long trousers.
And they've got stuff. They've got those like athletic shorts under their shorts. Yeah, from what I can see, those kind of like
it's just a daft way to do it.
Yeah.
Also, personal lowlight of the match for me was watching Ray do the Bronco Buster.
I actually read that. Yeah, I was like Bronco Buster. Bronco Buster always looks terrible. You know, it looks light. You know, you're just like,
but it's not him. Like that's X-Pac. The whole idea with X-Pac doing it was like he's like a disrespectful dickhead because it couldn't hurt.
Ray looked like he was doing it for fun. He's like, I'll bounce on this guy for a bit and then that'll get me going.
Get me going. What, like aroused? Are you
maybe potentially? And the guy's like, is this legal? Looking at his face, like, am I allowed? Is this? Does Ray at this stage do the 619?
No, I think that's a WWE thing.
Because he did the 619 as to no one at one point. And I was like, oh, does he do that?
He used to do that. He used to do like this twirl through the ropes and back in.
And then one day he was like, I could throw someone onto this.
There's a really nice bit I really love. Vampiro does like a gut wrench powerbomb on Kidman that's like really brutal.
Off the top rope?
No, it's like there's one later off the top. He just grabs him around the gut and throws him, and it's a really good power.
Yeah.
Because like Vampiro's not that big.
No,
but he looks
big.
Kidman or Mysterio are smaller.
Yeah,
it also shows that Eddie Guerrero is not wee. Like he's thought of as being a small guy, and he's not really.
Not at all.
Also, there's a really long period where the commentator spent ages talking about how Shivani used to have hair like Vampiro.
Yeah,
what was?
I know. I heard them, and he was like, "I did," and they're like, "Is that just that kind of banter that commentators do?" And you go, "Well, they should really pull them up," and that'd be like, "Prove it next week."
Yeah, bring
in the photos.
I don't doubt that he's from Virginia. He's got that air of like a bit white trashy,
right?
You know?
That's a complicated hairdo. Does that involve like dreadlocks and then tying them up together, or is it?
And then shaving the head on the sides.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a lot of things going on.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. What this match really emphasized to me though was like Eddie Guerrero is so good. Like, you watch Eddie Guerrero and he just like, it's actually a crime that it took so long for him to become like a top star. Because he just everything's smooth and makes sense.
Well, I was like, was that normal that he was just tossed in there into that match? Is that where he was?
Yeah, well, kind of. I mean, remember the Filthy Animals who were pretty over at the time,
but he wasn't a singles.
No, not really. I think he'd won the TV title and the cruiserweight.
Even though, like Benoit would have been a
bigger star, I think, at that stage because he had been in the Four Horsemen. Yeah, so Malenko, you know.
But I did, for me, watching it reminded me as like Eddie Guerrero. It kind of made me feel like when you watch old football and you see like George Best or someone, and
You're like, they don't belong in that era.
He doesn't look right.
Skillful.
Yeah, he's too good. You know, like you're like, what's all these guys with beer bellies doing, chasing that young lad?
100%.
Whereas Eddie Guerrero, even just when he came in the ring to break up a pin and he put a thumb in the guy's eye, I was like, oh, everything he does, you know,
just basic. He just knows how to do psychology really well. Rey Mysterio injures his knee at one point.
For real, or
for real. Vampiro, I think, whipped him into the guardrail, whatever way had he tweaked his knee. But Vampiro gets payback because you remember how the match ended? Kidman hit him with a shooting star press, and his knee hit him right in the face.
I saw that,
which apparently broke Vampiro's nose and his eye socket.
Wow, you wouldn't have known from because when I saw the replay, I always found Billy Kidman shooting star press quite odd.
Never looks that stable or something, you know.
And maybe that's maybe because you're supposed to be a junkie or something. Everything's a bit sloppy, but he doesn't exactly hit it like
well, junkies
Brock
don't tend
Lesnar.
to hit, you wouldn't hear about, man, I can't get off the heroin, but it's really fucking up my shooting star press.
yeah. Shooting star press might be some sort of brand of heroin, you know.
Like Black Tar.
Yeah, like. But every time I saw it, I was like, he looks like. Do you ever see those shooting star presses on a botch website where the person goes up and then lands behind themselves? Like they go up and then they somehow go backwards.
Yes, yeah.
That's how I feel about Billy Gibbons. It looks slow, even in midair. Like he looks like he's hanging around there. You know?
When I watched it last night, I noticed that it seemed a bit weird to me that Vampiro was the one who got pinned because he's the only wrestler on
why not
But apparently it's because he was one of Bischoff's favourites. So now that Bischoff has been sacked, they're all trying to get revenge.
Okay.
And this will come into play later on.
You know all the favourites backstage then?
Well, I don't know all of them, but
this
is obviously from the word of Mr.
And it does
Meltzer.
affect them, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think so. Okay. Well, I think what it was, if he didn't like the plans, he would go to Bischoff and Bischoff would get it changed. So then the booking committee started to resent him. So they were like, well, you're losing tonight, mate, because your buddy's gone. Did you notice though when they were carrying Ray away, it really looked like he was doing a poo? Like he had like a kind of face on him.
I also thought I mean, that's 1999. And when someone gets an injury of their knee, you don't carry them away by holding their knee. like, God forbid anyone got a neck injury in WCW. They'd be like, let's just carry this guy out. Well, I can't get him by the legs there. That's dangerous. I'll carry him by his vertebrae.
Yeah.
Also, there's a couple of nice signs in the crowd.
Oh, go on.
The Ray, show me your Mysterio.
I might start calling my dick my Mysterio.
My Mysterio. It sounds haunting, doesn't it? Yeah. Like,
well, I mean, it is.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's, what's that word? Like, it's ethereal. It's ethereal, yeah. You know, sometimes
you're not even sure it's there.
Yeah. When it has its mask on, it's more impressive. Doesn't look as young. And then there was also, did you see the guy in the crowd dressed as Jushin Thunder Liger?
Yeah, I saw. He was loving it. He was having a great night.
He was running like 4 rows behind him.
There was a bit later in the show, I can't remember what match it's in, but he has a fake like US title belt and he drops it and everybody runs for it and steals it off him.
Was that probably one of those dear enough ones?
Oh, I'd say probably was $100 or, you know.
Probably like taking off, like, you can't have this back till the end because you're wrecking our whole night.
Our night. And they're like, could that be actual Jushin Thunder Liger? I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell.
You wouldn't know.
He wears a full body suit.
I think there'd be a smell. Like Jushin's got, like, Jushin looks a bit unclean, doesn't he? His hair or something.
That's not his hair.
Is that not his real hair?
No, that's attached to the mask.
Oh, that's why
it used to be his hair, but then he just
that's why it looks so unclean. Then it must be. I've misjudged him. I thought he was unclean.
So the Worcester Was podcast would like to officially extend our apologies to Jushin Thunder Liger.
If you're out there.
So okay, so the Filthy Animals win. How do you feel about that match?
Like I said, you haven't watched much WCW, and just seeing Eddie Guerrero was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a lot better than I expected it to be fair, you know. Okay, so next we cut backstage. The Revolution stable, which is Shane Douglas, Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, and Chris Benoit, are with some bloke, one of those guys that like used to host, WWE Bottom Line in 2007 or something. Perry Saturn for some reason is really horny because he's like, he wants downloadable pictures of the Nitro Girls from WCW.com. Why?
But he's like, are you telling me you can just download these pictures? Why does he want to download them? Are they, are they files that you can't see before you download?
Maybe it's a zip file.
Yeah, because
something like that. It was 1999.
Perry's asking for tech advice, really.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is. But he guarantees that the Revolution will win all their matches tonight. We'll talk about that later because that's very prescient.
I was going to say short-sighted, but that's not nice thing to say about Perry Saturn.
No. Oh, poor Perry.
He's actually on hard times, isn't he?
I think he's okay now.
He
had a bad time. Okay, so match number 2, first title match of the night. Cruiserweight titles on the line. Lenny, accompanied by Lodi, the other member of the West Hollywood Blondes, defending against Kaz Hayashi. If you don't know Lenny and Lodi, and
I had never seen them.
It's basically lol, they're gay.
Yeah, and the wrestlers themselves are like lol, look at what gay men do. But I'm like, go all in then. go really,
Kiss him on the mouth. Kiss
go,
him on the mouth.
you know, just if you're really going to be like homophobic, at least have the decency to be, you know, fully gay.
Like at least
fully,
something.
yeah, pretend, you know, even if pretend, if you're going to be homophobic and pretend that like, oh, gay men do a little dance where they touch each other's bums on the hip, and you're like, you know, fully, you know,
Bum.
yeah, like, let's see something online let's see Perry Saturn accidentally downloads that zip file. So basically, yeah, pigtails and glitter.
Shorts, glitter. They commentators keep referring to them as brothers.
Yeah.
But they're clearly a couple. Like, it's very confusing. I quite like Kaz Hayashi. He goes back to Japan, has a great career in All Japan. But of course, he has that crappy racist theme music that every Japanese wrestler had in the 90s. It was like ding, ding, ding,
yeah,
ding, ding.
I don't even know what kind of music is that. Like, what instrument is it? But it's everywhere. You know, I can't picture the instrument.
It's probably just a synth, isn't it? It's like it's not.
Yeah, like making.
It's meant to be, I think, you know, like a string, like a Japanese guitar, but you know the thing I mean.
Like it's the thing where you sit on the floor and you kind of like pluck it. It's almost like a auto harp or something.
Yep.
Yeah, basically everyone's Casio keyboard probably in the 90s had like Oriental as a setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They combine. They're busy. He's from over there somewhere.
Yeah, the land of spices.
Now, this is the thing that annoys me as well. I'm like, right, you've already got the money. People have paid. Why, as soon as the bell rings in this match, are they talking about the main event? It's like, as if they're trying to sell it to us. It's like, we'll watch it when it comes
They're
around.
like, this match is going to be dog shit, so... You know.
Yeah. So match is fairly back and forth. Lodi does the thing, you know, he's like tripping up, distracting the referee, all the usual sort of shite.
Awful sideburns.
Oh, really? They're wild, aren't they?
Both of them, yeah.
Didn't you ask me earlier before we started recording? You were like, who did you think one of these?
I thought briefly when he came, I was like, is that Billy Gunn? And then, but then obviously it was like era, you know, it's like, well, he's actually doing quite well in 1999.
Well, at time of recording, Billy Gunn just wrestled Darby Allin for AEW and beat up Sting.
Yeah.
I can't see Lenny or Lodi beating up Sting.
I mean, what are they all right? Are they doing it?
Do you know, I haven't heard. I know that they were in TNA briefly, doing the same gimmick basically. Probably either sell cars or run a gym. That's usually what retired wrestlers do.
Yeah,
you know.
Hopefully in hopefully they're giving back to the community. They brought so much hate to. And for people over here, that wouldn't transfer as well. The whole West Hollywood, like West Hollywood was like a wink, wink. West Hollywood,
it's like the gay district of LA. I'm assuming.
Yeah,
and obviously it's a parody as well of the Hollywood Blondes, which was Pillman and Austin in the early 90s. But Cass actually does a lovely running Liger bomb, which like looks really impressive.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's like the highlight of the match. Did you notice as well the crowd chanting the F word?
No,
not fuck.
Oh right,
the slur.
Seriously,
at Lenny and Lodi. Yeah, stay classy, Winston-Salem.
Dark day.
Yeah, well, that's because there's like 4,000 people that have no, you know, we're just wandering about and we're offered free tickets to the thing. They're like, can I hate here? I would love that. That's my favourite thing to do.
So it ended with Lenny won, didn't it?
Lenny wins, yeah. Lenny hits a full Nelson slam that looks a wee bit like a stroke, you know.
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett's finisher. It was okay.
He was grand, yeah.
Match was okay. The problem is that the cruiserweight division of WCW, like, I'm sure you've heard, like, I know you don't know much about WCW, you know about the cruiserweights and Mysterio and Guerrero and it's taken a big drop since then.
Okay, I was thinking Lenny didn't really look like a classic cruiserweight to me.
No. It's
they didn't have the moveset either.
No, whenever it was, you know, Mysterio, Psychosis, Juventud Guerrero, Malenko, you know, Chris Jericho, all those guys, it was a very different beast. It was more like Lucha Libre or, you know. Well, now it's just like slightly faster WCW wrestling.
This guy's not big enough for him in there.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm sure you'll be devastated to know that shortly after this, Turner Standards and Practices banned the West Hollywood Blondes.
Did they?
So yes. They're gone.
They were like, not gay enough.
Not gay enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can make them more gay, please.
Yeah. I did notice at the start of the match, he had Hayashi on all fours and was behind him and the crowd booed. And you're like, well, mat wrestling sometimes involves stuff like that. I mean, we obviously know what they're trying to do, but why are they booing? Like, are they booing the idea of two men being together?
Well, I mean, this is the same crowd that was chanting slurs, so yes, probably.
Even though they're like, that's some decent wrestling technique to get someone down, you know, in that kind of position. You know, they can avoid getting their shoulders on the mat. They're like, I'll stay on all fours for this whole match. Try and pin me now.
Lenny and Lodi celebrate, they leave. Kaz just, you know, he wanders off. We then get big old Mean Gene Okerlund in the ring, and I love a wee bit of Mean Gene.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Gene. He brings out Sting. How do you feel about Sting in general?
I love Sting, yeah.
You weren't a WCW guy, but
always, every time I see him, I always think about, I'm like, that's a hard thing to commit to, isn't it? Your face paint.
He must have very dry skin.
Yeah, and he looks well for his age now.
He does, yeah. Apart from the soul patch, which...
Yeah, no, that's just a bad choice.
Yeah.
But imagine committing to that look. Do you know what I mean? Some wrestlers must go, I wish I had a gimmick that was, I didn't have to have a big shower. I mean, obviously, when you've been wrestling all night against other men, you should, but you don't want to be deep scrubbing.
But yeah, like Sting now, like he's with Darby Allin, he just comes out and usually accompanies him to the ring for the most part, but he still spit the face.
He's done all that. And does someone do that for him?
I think he does it himself.
Yeah, because he does it quite well. He'd have if wrestling didn't go well enough, he would have had a sideline.
But just do that at
children's parties. All Stings.
Can you do a clown or a Taggart? No, but I can do Sting. I can do Surfer Sting.
Yeah.
Or Crow Sting.
And they're like...
Or Joker Sting, which is basically Heath Ledger.
Just like Sting with a couple of bits of smeared bits on him. Yeah,
perfect.
But yeah, no, I enjoyed him. I thought his promo was just pretty okay.
It was he basically said...
Showtime.
He talks a lot. For a guy who looks like he's going to be like the underdog, kind of brooding, and he also, for something about him, really reminds me of Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I think he sort of physically looks a bit
he
like him.
He does have that sort of
also is like, kind of wackiness,
But I suppose you're right. It's strange that Sting, because for someone who didn't watch WCW, I thought Sting was supposed to be like their Undertaker.
Yeah.
So for him just to come out with generic wrestling phrases is a bit weird for me to see him go like, tonight, it's showtime. Like, what?
See, he was in the run up to facing Hogan at Starrcade, which I'm sure we'll talk about later in the main event. He was kind of like a brooding in the rafters and all. Yeah. Then he came back in '99. He's like, woo, having a great time, Yeah. So he basically tells Luger to keep out of his business. Yeah. They spend a lot of time talking about how Sting will be a 9-time champion if he wins, and they talk about it so much where I'm like, I sort of know that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Up next, third match, no DQ tag team. The First Family, who are Hugh Morris and Brian Knobbs.
The humorous, the comedy.
Yeah, sometimes they call him humorous, sometimes they call him Hugh Morris. They can't. Jimmy Hart's with them, the mouth of the South, baby. And they're taking on the Revolution, who are Shane Douglas and Dean Malenko. Now, the match starts right away. Did you notice that you can hear Douglas backstage with the microphone? He goes, Saginaw, Michigan. And then he goes, no. Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Maybe he was planning to go through all the places.
Yeah, just like, I'll do them all. That's good heat. But I think they're meant to be the faces, so maybe not.
Were they?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, you're always the face if you're in against Brian Smelly Knobbs.
I know. When he comes close to the camera, you're just like, it looks like a big advertisement for ham. What's all big? I'm like, he's so wet.
Yeah, he is.
He's crazy. And
I think he's like the opposite of me because he is only like 35 there. And he looks absolutely horrendous.
Where's the other guy? The other nasty boy?
He's retired at this point.
Okay, at young age? Just...
Yeah, I think he got an insurance payout from an injury, so he had to stay retired. He did eventually come back, but so he's just nasty Brian Knobbs.
Yeah.
But
and they keep trying to find him someone, do they?
Do you think he has the worst hair in wrestling?
Undoubtedly.
Yeah. Is he also the worst guy in wrestling?
Yeah, like he's the guy that he's if all the wrestlers were lined up backstage and you're like, you had to eat something out of all their hands, I wouldn't eat out of his. Like he's one of those guys in life, if he touched anything, he'd be like, I need to give that a wipe.
Yes. Yeah.
If he came into your home, you'd be like,
the Nasty Boys finisher was the pit stop.
Right.
Which was Knobbs put his arm up and Sags pushed the guy into Knobbs' armpit. And I would say that genuinely smelled.
That was their finisher in the early 90s, yeah?
Yeah.
Like a precursor to Mankind and stuff like that kind of
I'll
smelly.
Yeah.
And did the people just kind of go like,
Well, I don't think they were pretending, looking at Knobbs,
I know some of those quote-unquote fake finishers that like Mr. Socko, they weirdly would be gross. Like Mick Foley did take the sock from his pants and put it in your mouth. So people are like, oh, that's silly, wrestling's fake. You're like, well, that's the one time. You're like, that's the most silly thing and the most fake thing, but also the most real.
The most upsetting.
Even Britt Baker, even now, I'm like in the era of COVID, just jamming her hand into people's mouths. You're like, that's not great, She didn't even put a plastic glove on or something first,
Well, she does, actually.
Oh, does she? Sorry. See,
I don't think she used to. Because she's a dentist, she puts on like a dental.
Oh, right, okay, I'm not paying attention. I go to the toilet during women's matches.
Just for the record, this is only the first episode of this podcast, so they may not know that's the kind of thing you would say ironically.
Yeah,
rather than, you actually hate women's wrestling. Also, Jimmy Hart is the opposite of Brian Knobbs because he's got the elixir of life. Jimmy Hart looks the same in 1999 as he does in 2021.
That's very true, yeah.
He's just like, come on, baby. Like he's got a wee high voice.
He's one of those guys, he looked terrible when he was young, but now it all makes sense or something.
Yeah, well, he looked 70 when he was 30, but he's now 70.
So when he was coming out in 90s WWE, what age? We're talking like 40, 35?
No, but he was always older than what you would think. I think he was about, maybe his 40s probably, when he was managing the Honky Tonk Man. Mm-hmm. But he looks the same now.
And he's about 80 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like...
It's like he still dyes hair and, sunglasses help.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. There's not much skin on the show.
He covers his face with the megaphone. Do you know what looked really rubbish? The Revolution's wee belly tops.
Yes.
They were like, their t-shirts were like cut above the belly button.
Yeah.
You're like, what is that about?
I know that they give off that, like, they like that Gold's Gym vibe, don't they? Like Malenko and all, they like that kind of...
But it kind of works for Malenko, but, Shane Douglas, who I've always liked, but even at his best, had a wee belly,
Yeah.
So his wee belly's just poking out.
Well, even Malenko's a wee stocky kind of guy, he's sort of like, he's not...
It's very like teen disco in 1989 to wear a wee belly top, show off your piercing,
Yeah, I enjoyed the Nasty Boys. I mean, Brian Knobs, it's probably the same gear they had, but it sort of hit me that for the first time that it looks like, Peter Schmeichel's goalkeeper kit from the early 90s. Where like... It
was like chaos.
It was to distract you. Brian Knobs, if you're like, so Brian Knobs, when you're wrestling him, if you're, one-on-one with him coming at him, you'd be like, where is he? It's too many colours, and then Brian Knobs would throw out his big hand and you'd be like, missed again.
But that really became a very tortured metaphor.
I was just like, I'm just talking about Peter Schmeichel now.
There was a nice one spot I did, like actually they're fighting around the ringside area and Douglas gets the fans to hold Mars and then punch. I've never actually seen somebody do that before, but it was fun.
It wasn't like, where it would happen, say, in an organisation like ECW or someone, where they would turn around and hit those fans for doing that. Mm-hmm. It was like the fans almost just instinctively knew that this was okay.
Yeah.
The other thing, I noticed their tagline is revolution, not evolution, or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was, all I could think of was Tony Harris, from Alan Partridge. Just picturing Dean Malenko being like, I revolve. I would like to evolve. Smell my cheese. I just picture him. Yeah. That'd be a very good wrestling finisher, speaking of all those like smelly ones. Like if there was just a cheesemonger wrestler who jammed a big Stilton into your face and you're like, I'm lactose intolerant.
Oh God! The match is. I mean, Dean Malenko and Shane Douglas are kind of wasted.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Against it, like Dean Malenko has a lovely wee drop kick, and I will say Hugh Morris has a lovely moonsault.
He does, yeah. Albeit I do know from people who've trained at wrestling that weirdly a moonsault's not that hard if you're just brave or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tony, he's a guy.
Friend of the pod.
He did a couple of weeks of wrestling and within like 3 weeks he was doing a moonsault, admittedly onto a crash mat. But he said once you kind of get over the fear, it makes a lot of sense. It's actually harder, like we were talking about Billy Kidman earlier. You're more risky if you do it kind of like half. Mm-hmm. He's like, if you just go the whole way over, like Cody Rhodes or that guy, what do you call him, Hugh Morris? Like that's why when it looks perfect, it's safer than doing like a,
Hugh Morris gets the win with the moonsault. I was quite surprised by the result because it was like I assumed the Revolution were getting pushed, especially since like the First Family had Jimmy Hart with them, but he wasn't really involved in the finish. Like it was a pretty clean finish.
Yeah, it was.
Which you don't really expect.
That's why I was confused about who was like heel or face. Really, I knew obviously. Yeah, like I said, when you look at Nasty Boy.
Brian Knobs,
yeah. When you look at Brian Knobs, you're like, well, that has to be a heel. That can never, Yeah,
he's never going to... I don't know if he was ever a face, but...
In his whole... Yeah, I know he'd be interesting to look back even... Did he start out somewhere before WWF or...
I assume so. I mean, he was mates with Hogan.
He'd be interesting to look at like what he was like when he was like 20. I mean, obviously...
He looked like that.
He probably looked like that, but you're like, did he ever... When you look back at like early Undertaker and even Stone Cold when they're all clean cut and just new... just to look at Brian Knobs new. Maybe he was bored with that big mullet.
Oh, that's such an upsetting image. Okay, so we basically then, there's no more backstage fluff. We go into the next segment, which is for the TV title.
Yeah.
Big Rick Steiner, ruff, or whatever, defend against Perry Saturn. It's always nice to spend some time with Rick, who is very much the Garfunkel of the Steiner brothers.
That's true.
I don't get Rick Steiner at all. I get young Rick Steiner when they were a tag team and throwing people about.
And the whole like, Matt Wrestler thing, is that the whole shtick?
Yeah.
But he looks a bit he looks like he makes very little sense on his own, you're like, at least you go, well, there's obviously some genetic defect.
They're big silly boys.
Yeah.
So Perry comes out, he's got the Revolution t-shirt on, but doesn't have a silly belly top.
No.
Which makes all the difference.
Yep.
And I always liked Perry Saturn. I was thinking he had like cool moves and he had a good look.
Yeah.
But he just never really was a big star.
It never really worked for him, did it? Even in WWF or whatever.
We ended up loving him up.
Yeah, because I kind of thought he looks hard and he looks like he'll wrestle well, but then maybe just that's terrible. Maybe just his eye and stuff like that. People are like, he's silly. I think maybe Vince is definitely the kind of person to look at someone and be like, like talk to them, like while he's talking to them, he's like, Perry Saturn's like, I'm going to be like this mat wrestler, like technical, and he's like, but you have a wonky eye. You will love a mop.
Rick Steiner comes out with a big glittery dog collar.
Yes.
Which presumably means he's the best boy in the world or something. Like, it was really weird.
And with the crowd barking, or is that the music?
Well, I think it's meant to be the crowd, but I would imagine it's the music.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't like me, bite me.
Yeah. Yeah, bite me.
It's like Tim Allen in Home Improvement. So just before the match, they say that Buff Bagwell hasn't arrived for his match against Berlin, and that someone else will replace him. Mm-hmm. But they don't say who. Ooh, the mystery. So the match, it's pretty typical for like older Rick Steiner, which is it's really slow. I thought the match was like Saturn does throw himself around a lot to kind of make Steiner look strong, but like just I don't know. There's a lot of like Saturn selling the leg.
Yeah,
Rick Steiner at one point does this like single leg crab.
Yeah,
that like he's just sitting down. Like it doesn't look like there's any pressure attached to it at all.
Yeah, this is a bad sign that out of all the matches, I've written nothing down. I actually, when you were talking there, I was like, for a second, I was like, was Perry Saturn in that last tag match? I'm like, no, and I'm like, not being bad, you know, with Dean Malenko, but I've written nothing down about this match, and I actually, I think I did zone out a bit, even though I did weirdly enjoy the German suplexes and stuff. I do like some of Rick Steiner's style where he tosses people about a bit, but once you've seen it a couple, there's not much growth in those matches,
Saturn does a Death Valley Driver, which I always think is a move that like that should be match over. Steiner kicks out at 2.
Yep.
The finish is Saturn goes for a superplex, but Steiner counters it and throws him off with like a front suplex, and then does the Steiner Bulldog, which is like a jumping off into Bulldog, and gets the 3, defends the title. I feel like this match, what I've written here is this should have been a big meaty men slapping meat match, but it was just a bit boring. They have that look, it's like just beat the shit out of each other for 10
like
minutes.
Go for it, whereas actually they kind of went for mat wrestling.
Yeah,
but then you're like, but you're not super technical.
No.
You're more like brutes.
Give me Scott any day of the week,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's for the promos alone. Never mind.
Then that wee extra bicep that he's got.
Yeah, the wee, like, where a smaller Scott Steiner lives. And flexes, and he's got a wee bicep that leads to another smaller Scott Steiner.
Infinite biceps.
So we go backstage, back to Mean Gene again, who's with the man, with the biggest star in wrestling, Hulk Hogan. It was a really weird promo. Like he kept swearing on his kids' lives.
Swearing on his kids' lives, mixing up. He was doing that hyper wrestling thing where he says, "I'm going to be the world wrestling champ." Belt. I'm going to be, those things where wrestlers go, I'm going to be the belt. You're like, you're going to be the belt. Yeah, it's like, actually, Scott Steiner, that one, she's like, he goes, you're looking at Big Papa Pump, the next heavyweight championship of the world. It's like the wrestlers, they want to like actualize into the belt. They're like, it's what they dream of. So they're like, I want to actually be melted down. Boy, put me in this belt. And he keeps, he emphasized obviously because of NWO. He kept mentioning that he's red and
I'm now a good guy again. Yeah. And I'm straight up. He says that he's friends with Sting, but he's going to kick his ass. You know. But seriously, like he swears on his kids like 5 times. Yeah. It's like, all right, Hulk. Yeah, we get it. Yeah, it's fine.
His kids are at home like, bloody hell.
Bloody hell, I really hope he doesn't betray him tonight.
Yeah, like...
We then go back to the commentators who talk about the main event some more, and then they speculate about the whereabouts of Buff Bagwell, who hasn't arrived and his match is next. So out comes Berlin. The guy who's with him is described as his personal bodyguard, but it's the Wall.
Yeah, it's the Wall. That's where I thought it from, yeah.
The one, and the man that likes to stand on tall buildings many miles
people
away.
Like, who's that up there? Don't jump. Oh no, he's just
he's just doing a choke slam.
Yeah. And are they supposed to be almost sympathizing with, East Berlin? Is that the point? Even though it's 1999.
I don't really know. I don't really know. Is he meant to be a Nazi? Like,
they're all confused. They're like, they think the communists are Nazis over there.
You didn't recognise Berlin, but I
recognise him, yeah. But
Das Wunderkid, Alex Wright, who was like danced to Europop, but now he loves Rammstein or something. I don't know.
He's in the Berghain with his sunglasses on at night. Someone's doing something to him in the dark. That kind of thing,
What are they doing to him?
In the Berghain, I don't know. Just you go in there and that's what they say, but there's too many people in there. You wouldn't know. You'd probably turn up. We walked past the Berghain in Berlin, and you heard all these.
I don't think I know what the Berghain is.
Berghain's that nightclub in Berlin where there's like all those rooms where it gets darker and darker until they're in absolute darkness. Right. It's those clubs where everything goes right. So people are like, oh, there's people like sucking each other off at the bar and everything like that, and people having sex. But we walked past it in Berlin, and I heard "I've Got a Feeling" by the Black Eyed Peas, and I was like, I think this has been grossly exaggerated. Unless like the depths of depravity even go so far as to have to listen to Will I Am.
Apparently, Berlin will only speak German because the English language disgusts him.
But he also spelled his, like, they just put a Y in his
name. Put a Y in, why not?
Like, he's from Berlin, isn't he?
Yeah,
or whatever.
I don't even know if he is. He's German, like, but I don't know if he...
And they've gone, let's call him Berlin with a Y.
Yeah.
Berlin.
They don't acknowledge at any point that is Alex Wright.
Yeah.
It made me think, do you remember the Louis Theroux Weird Weekends episode where he goes to WCW?
Yes, yeah.
But it's like, it's my first night in as Berlin. So it must have been like a week or two before that. So
Louis Theroux sick was probably still in the parking lot.
Probably.
Being pecked by gulls.
Yeah. Who's the replacement? Who comes out as the replacement?
Big hacksaw Jim Duggan.
How do you feel about him?
I dislike him.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard at the minute he's having some health problems. Hope he's doing well. Yeah. I don't hate him, but he is not my cup of tea.
I mean, if he should be thankful that he's not wrestling now with the price of timber.
That's very true. His overheads since Brexit.
Did he have to go and get the timber at every venue, or did he fly?
I'd imagine they had timber for him.
He didn't fly the same piece around.
Can I have a seat for the timber? Yeah. Tough guy. Also, his big mouth. You know, he always is like a gummy. Yeah. Like, you can't see this on the podcast, but he's always like his gums always to one side.
He really should have moved to the UK and gone into those Gurnin championships.
yeah. So apparently, the real reason that Duggan's doing the match is that Bagwell refused to lose to Berlin.
Oh, that's the real... Yeah.
Which, like, Buff Bagwell, he was on quite a big contract. I think there's yet another reason that he is not worth what they're paying him.
Yeah.
Like,
his own
he's not that good, but also he won't put anybody over, you know.
Yeah. What's his purpose?
And apparently Duggan found out he was doing the match like 2 minutes before he went out.
Was he just there?
He was just there, so they just went, put on your tights and go wrestle.
What was he there for? Was he
WCW notoriously flew everybody into every show.
Was he a current WCW?
Yeah.
Oh, so that wasn't a big...
No.
That wasn't like, whoa, Hacksaw Jim Duggan's here.
No.
I was wondering why it was so flat. I was like, why is everyone just going... Why is everyone going... Like, it did feel a bit like they were... Because I thought, oh, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, this must be the first time he's appeared.
Yeah,
no. It wasn't. Okay, right.
Maybe they thought, oh, Buff Bagwell's not appearing, so it's going to be a big star. Big surprise.
Oh, yeah, the letdown, yeah.
And they're like, nope.
Yeah.
They were hoping for Stone Cold Steve Austin, but instead
they went for the whole American...
Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WCW US title.
They went for the America versus... Whatever
Berlin is.
Just Germany in 1999.
Yeah. So the match is very sloppy and basic, and like Berlin isn't a very exciting character, but also like to be fair to Duggan, he wasn't prepared for the match, so it's all over the place. And the crowd does not give a shit.
No.
Like what I noticed as well as the show goes on, they get quieter. Like the opening match, they were really up for it. And then it's just they've been ground down by like 3 or 4 mediocre matches in a row. That's just made them like, ugh. There's a nice wee line where Shivani goes, Berlin with a hair takedown, and Heenan says, is that German? Hair takedown?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, nice.
That is good.
That's what we'll have you here for. And then Berlin wins with this like reverse neck breaker.
Yeah, the reverse neck breaker.
Like has no impact. It looks really rubbish.
Yeah, I wrote that down, that I was like, he won with a reverse neck breaker, and it just, I was like, oh, that's Hacksaw Jim Duggan there. Like I said, I'm not a big fan, but it reminded me like early 80s WWF where someone wins with like a big clobber over the neck. You know, and you're like, really?
Is that it?
You know, I mean, I suppose technically a reverse neck breaker should be a strong move because you're like, that's your neck, that's where all your thoughts are and everything.
All your thoughts. We then come backstage where Buff Bagwell is only arriving and he's arguing with Mike Graham saying, look, I can be ready to go in 2 minutes. He's like, the match is already over.
Yeah.
And then he goes out and hugs Jim Duggan.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Thanks for losing for me.
And then Duggan pushes him away. And I think Duggan was genuinely pissed off there.
Yeah.
Because he just had a bad match that he should never have had. Yeah. You know. God, I fucking hate Buff Bagwell.
Yeah.
I just think he's such
He also
shit.
Works mainly with wood now.
Because he's a gigolo. I don't know if he is a gigolo anymore.
Is he?
He's
not?
Mostly now just getting arrested for DUIs and things like that.
Okay.
He's not in a good way, like old Buff. He's
I feel like
no longer the stuff, but he's certainly finding it tough. And the girls,
they've had enough.
They've had more than enough.
They've had enough Buff Bagwell.
We're into the next match, another title match. The West Texas Rednecks are the tag team champions. So that's Barry Windham and Kendall Windham, accompanied by Kurt Hennig, and they're taking on the recently reformed Harlem Heat, Booker T and Stevie Ray. For my money, Harlem Heat have the best entrance music.
Yeah. Oh,
that.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I love that music. Even just the start of it, like it's yeah. I'm not even sure what kind of. Do you know what's nice about it? I don't know what kind of music that is. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't know what genre that would even be trying to be. You know, you're like, it's not, because it's nice that they haven't just gone with generic hip hop or something. They haven't gone, these guys are black guys.
Well, did you ever hear about what their original gimmick was going to be?
Oh, right.
This was like in the early 90s. So they had wrestled in GWF, which is like a Texas wrestling company, as the Ebony Experience. right?
Okay.
And then, no, that's not the...
That's not something Buff Bagwell offers,
It was going to be... Do you know Colonel Robert Parker? He's the man who's Jeff Jarrett.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Well, he was Tennessee Lee. He was going to lead them out in chains.
No. What
Like,
company was this? Was this
WCW was going to do that, and then they were like, no, we can't do that.
How long ago was that? Like, was that?
That was about 93 or something.
Yeah. No, I wasn't going to be like, how long?
Was it 1860?
I wasn't expecting you to say a time that would justify it. Well, it was early days, you know.
It was, I mean, the slaves hadn't been freed yet, so it was fine, but like, yeah.
And he was going to free them to wrestle, but then put them back in.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of, because that idea was written down, you're like, they should have done that to expose, how awful, that would have been another thing where you're like, look at wrestling, come on. You think Papa Shango's the worst? The comedian Brennan Burns said one time, he says, look, you can't think things are racist. You're wrestling fans. It's a show where black guys play witch doctors. And in fact, wrestling's so racist, you don't know which black guy I'm talking about. And you know what? He's not wrong. He's not wrong there. No. I enjoyed the match, yeah.
Yeah, match is good, yeah.
Yep.
And like Sting, Hart and Heat are going for their 9th title win. I would say it's not the bit. The Wyndhams aren't great, but I've always had a soft spot for Hart and Heat. And Booker T, this is like his peak. This is when he's great.
And the Wyndhams are they Barry Wyndham's children?
No, but Barry Wyndham's there.
What?
That's Barry Wyndham and his brother Kendall.
What age is Barry Wyndham?
Not as old as you'd think, but he looks dreadful.
But is he not from like late 80s?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
it's only 10 years before.
I know.
He was young in the 80s.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
But he was in the Horsemen.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
But yeah,
I don't know why I thought. I was like,
they had a feud with the Filthy Animals about rap because Master P was there, the rapper, and Master P
was
meant to be come in as a good guy.
Yeah.
But the fans loved obviously because WCW is all in the South, they loved the West Texas Rednecks who had a song called Rap is Crap.
Yeah.
That actually got like airplay.
Even though it was just a joke, sort of.
It was just a joke, but they released it and it got like airplay and country stations.
They were trying to be heels with it.
Yeah.
But
people loved them. So
Master P's not the best rapper to come back at them with, like, either,
But he's got the No Limit Soldiers,
It's more just a businessman, isn't he?
Yeah. Stevie Ray's isolated for most of the match, but the crowd loves Harlem Heat. They're so up for the hot type. There's a bit where Kurt Hennig sneaks up. Stevie Ray is standing with his back against the ropes, and Kurt Hennig hits him with a punch in the leg, but he hits him so lightly that Stevie doesn't notice he's been punched and doesn't react at all.
Punches his lower leg.
Yeah, he's like, ooh.
Because I know he was trying to get those in, like he was trying to punch him anywhere that he was near the side of the ring.
Yeah.
But I didn't see that.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Booker gets a hot tag, but then he's cut off, and Hennig beats him up on the outside when the referee's back's turned.
Yep.
So then he's the one getting beat up for a while. The finish was sort of weird, but it kind of works. So I can't remember whether it was Kurt or one of the Wyndhams hits Stevie Ray with a cowbell, but the referee's back's turned, so they don't get disqualified. And then when they turn around, Stevie isn't the legal man, so the pin doesn't count. But then Booker hits Kendall with a missile dropkick and pins him. You're like, and Booker, whenever he used to go up the top, he had a lovely missile dropkick.
I think Booker's brilliant. In this match, especially, it reminded me, I was like, oh yeah, he's got that extra energy that you just see, and you go, that's like a main event kind of person.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I remember Harlem Heat had reformed fairly recently, and people were a bit disappointed actually because they were like, Booker's ready to be a top guy, and it's about another year really before he gets to be a top guy, and then he goes back to the mid card in WWE for about 3 years.
Because you can see him in this match, like compared to the other three, you're like, he has that extra kind of. He's got the extra charisma, obviously, but he's just so much slicker than them and so much faster with everything he's doing.
Yeah. No, he's got that little bit of the burst of speed, everything he does. So he gets to free with the missile drop kick. New tag team champions, the 9th, and the crowd actually does go nuts.
Pick back up for that.
Whenever like, we're all for
Generally, people like the music as well. When
we danced to it.
I think some of those 3,000 people that weren't even wrestling fans were like, "This song's good. We're going to buy this." There's a lot of white people throwing their hands in the air,
and the flame pyro and all. It just works, So coming up next. The US title is on the line as Chris Benoit defends against the Millennium Man, Sid Vicious. Just to take you through what's been happening, Sid Vicious has been doing this really weird winning streak gimmick where he's trying to match Goldberg's 173
That what Goldberg's on at this point,
Yeah, well, Goldberg had his first loss. All right, so the streak's over. But so Sid's interrupting other matches, powerbombing people and pinning them and going, that's on my streak.
And the ref being like,
I count that, yeah. This is where it's all off the rails. So he just interrupt matches and pin people. Also, on house shows he lost all the time, but they just didn't acknowledge it.
Whatever, yeah.
It's fine.
Did they count Goldberg's wins on house shows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they just kept adding, the artificially inflated. We were like, well, you didn't wrestle 20 times last week. What are you talking about? What I will say is, we talked before about the wrestling term, absolute boy, which is somebody who's not that great.
Yeah.
but you just have so much love for them. And I would say, unashamedly, Big Sid's one of my absolute boys. I love
Chris
Sid.
Benoit?
No. Sid's not good, but I sort of love him, you know?
Yeah.
Do you prefer Sid Vicious or Sid Vicious?
What?
Do you prefer Sid Vicious or Sid Vicious?
Oh, like out of the two?
Out of the wrestler or the punker?
Definitely.
The punker?
Definitely that punk rocker was very unappealing, wasn't he? You know?
Yeah, there's something Sid Vicious, the wrestler, wouldn't smell.
No, Sid Vicious lived that kind of lifestyle. You're just like a spot made human. You know, you're just like, the idea of someone going, I have acne and I'm a rebel, you know?
Yeah.
And he couldn't play his bass or anything, you know? But
do you think Sid Vicious can play the bass?
Yeah, what's the story with Sid Vicious going, I'll call myself did Sid Vicious have any inkling of enjoyment of the Sex Pistols and their outlook on life?
I don't think so.
Their nihilistic view.
I don't think so. I'd say he's much more Johnny Rotten. You know, he's going to do anything for a few quid.
You'll see Sid Vicious advertising some country butter in America.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, Benoit, obviously, I've got this thing that I can never really feel totally comfortable watching Benoit anymore.
It's strange.
But I can't deny that he's really good.
He is really good, yeah.
You know, I was very much hoping that he would get something good out of Sid, and I think he did, actually. I think it was a
really good match, yeah.
They did a really nice thing where whenever Benoit was coming out, they never do this in wrestling, where they cross-faded between the two camera angles, so they were both faded into the screen at the same time.
Yeah.
I was like, that was a nice wee,
well, there was some stuff in the whole pay-per-view where I love the turnbuckle cam.
Oh yeah, me too. I think it's great.
The AEW used it at the minute a wee bit or something.
Yes, they do, yeah.
And I'm like, the turnbuckle cam just makes a lot of sense. Everything looks really fast when you see it from that camera angle. It looks.
See, I love that one. I love as well. Some shows will do where the camera kind of swoops across the ring diagonally.
Yes,
I remember watching old USWA and the cameraman would be in the ring,
and just
moving out of the way.
He's jittering around. Yeah. They need to incorporate drones. You should go to a live event and there should just be a lot of flying drones around.
WCW years ago had a ref cam.
Yeah.
Where the referee had to wear a big camera over his head because it was the early 90s. It wasn't a wee dinky GoPro.
Aye.
It was a big headset.
It was like watching outside the film Peep Show or something like that.
Yeah.
You heard the referee's thoughts.
Slow start with the match. They just kind of size each other up a wee bit. There's a cool spot where Benoit puts Sid's leg against the ring post and then drop kicks the stairs into the leg, which I thought it looked
quite creative.
He also manages the German suplex Sid.
Yeah.
Which is impressive.
But it was impressive, but it didn't look, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't like, whoa, because I'd seen Benoit do some crazy stuff in the ring over the years.
Benoit's trying to get the crossface and stuff in for a while, which is also weird because he sort of works over the leg quite a bit, but but your finisher doesn't involve the leg at all.
Sid sort of lifts him up in the crossface.
Which is a cool spot. Sid turns it into a power bomb.
Yeah.
Boom. 1, 2, 3. New champ. Big.
Oh, no, did not miss a headbutt. Was that not how the finish? Maybe I've forgotten.
Oh no, you're probably right because I've written here I can't really remember.
Yeah, as far as I remember, he goes for he
stands up in the crossface.
How does he get him down? Either way, Benoit gets him down somehow, and then goes to the diving headbutt, but he misses it,
and then the powerbomb.
Yeah.
Sid has a nice looking powerbomb.
Yeah.
I will say that.
But I think maybe that's that thing of I haven't watched much Sid Vicious, and I've always seen all the clips. I've lived WCW through those clips, him going out to his wee crushed car, being like, "Why
me?
Yeah,
22."
And I've got half the brain and all those clips. So I've hardly ever seen Sid wrestle, and I've seen him jump off the top rope and fracture his leg.
Yeah, we've all seen that.
Yeah,
that was
so I've never really watched a Sid Vicious match, and then I watched this and I go, "That was really good."
No, to be fair, that's probably the best Sid Vicious match you'll see.
Is that because he's wrestling Benoit?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he's competent, and fans love Sid. And he's got the big intimidating look, and he's also got the best promos ever because he goes he could go So let's see. I'm trying to think of somebody to give me something to do a promo on.
Let's do it on Hugh Morris.
Hugh Morris, okay. Hugh Morris, you're the laughing man, but you've got nothing to laugh about. And I'll sit. He goes back and up and
he
down.
Says the loud part quiet.
Loud, quiet. Let's just see it move me to a bigger house.
Why?
Why? I'm at 22. Big silly man.
He also added to the quota of wet, curly, blonde hair, which was really rife. I was like, were there that many people late 90s with that blonde hair?
Certainly in wrestling, you have to remember this is the era as well where everybody in wrestling had long hair. Wrestling's always behind the times.
Everyone sort of looked a bit like Justin Timberlake in a weird way. That kind of
Sid Vicious looks like Justin Timberlake.
That kind of horrible, damp, curly blonde hair. You're like, oh, it's been sprayed too much.
I'm bringing sexy back. So Perry Saturn was wrong because every Revolution member lost.
Yeah.
And apparently, once again, that was because one time they went over the booking committee's head and got Bischoff to change the finish. So they were like, fuck these guys, let's make them look like idiots. So, not that it doesn't make a good booking, but like...
He didn't swear in his kids' lives, so don't know if Perry has kids, but he didn't swear in anyone's. Unlike Big Holster.
Okay, so match number 8, which is the semi-final of the show. It's DDP against Goldberg.
Yep.
So that's like two WCW guys going at it. Did you ever see their match they had at Halloween Havoc the year before? It's like...
The year before this? Yeah.
Okay. It's like Goldberg's best match.
Right.
And it's during the streak, and there's a great moment where Goldberg's beating everybody, but they're like, it's probably the title change at some point. And Goldberg gets DDP up on the jackhammer, and DDP turns it into the diamond cutter for like a very, very near fall, and the crowd goes absolutely nuts. And it's probably Goldberg's best match ever. Like,
does he go a bit longer with DDP than he does with other?
It's about a 20-minute match or something.
And is that unusual at that time?
Yeah.
Because I was watching it going, you do that thing when you're watching a wrestling pay-per-view where you scroll and you see how long's left, and you're like, this is going to be about a minute, But actually, that was longer than I expected. Yeah. I thought the main event was going to be longer. So, because my impression of WCW was Goldberg has these like
short matches, but then I think that was part of the problem was that became a main event star. It's like Hogan's not working a 2-minute match, so you've got to, if you want to work with these guys, he's going to have to figure out.
Yeah.
Now the only thing is DDP was notorious as well for pre-planning his matches entirely.
Okay.
So I suppose there's less risk if like literally you're going to do this move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not improvising. So DDP's a heel now. He's part of the Jersey Triad with Canyon and Bam Bam Bigelow. There's a video package for this match. It's very short, but basically they're just a bit annoyed at each other. They never really explain what they're annoyed about. DDP comes out, right? So he's got a mullet, big earrings, and a silver jacket. And I've written here, he either looks like a disappointing hen party stripper or somebody who would hang out with Wayne Lineker. You know, that kind of... Do you know what I mean? Like, he probably spends 6 months a year in Ibiza.
Well, he's going, if you're sort of were glancing at the TV for a second, someone walked in the room, you're watching this and think you're watching Tiger King. We're like,
I'm never going to financially recover from this.
Yeah. And he's doing okay.
He's doing okay. Confusing as well, he does a really sort of pointless pre-match promo where he goes, I'm a two-time. That's 3 times.
Yeah.
What else is Goldberg's WCW entrance is great.
Yeah.
The whole the walk with the security detail and all.
What does he breathe in when does he breathe in the smoke?
Own pyro. He breathes in the smoke from the pyro.
Is that okay?
Probably not.
I know. I was watching
that's why he's gassed after 30 seconds.
Because when I was watching, it's like they don't even know what's in vape, and people are doing it, and he's breathing in pyrotechnics every night. And it's like, how many nights a year are you doing that? You think that's another one. Face paint. Ideally, you want to be a wrestler. Like, look, I don't care if I'm on the mid card for the rest of my life. I don't want face paint. I don't want any pyro. I want to extend my life.
I don't want to do any here. Well, that's basically you want the career of the honky tonk man.
Yeah, no high impact.
No bumps. No bumps.
Give me that guitar. I've got a couple of calluses in my fingertips. That's about it.
Yeah.
But he's breathing in the smoke of the pyro, and does he breathe it into his lungs, or does he hold it in his mouth?
I think he probably holds it in his mouth,
which can cause mouth cancers. Yeah. Because when every time you're like,
I think there's not tobacco in it.
Oh, I thought just any smoke. I thought like if you're,
well, maybe a can.
If you're working a barbecue all your life, you're sort of like careful, You you occasionally want to smoke cigars. You're like, I wouldn't mind smoking a wee cigar, but then you go, oh, they're probably bad for your mouth.
Yeah. They are nice though.
They are lovely.
Doug Dillinger's there, who's like the WCW head of security. He's always there. This big, like weird, goofy.
He's the guy that walks right behind.
Yeah, he got the wee goatee. And when Goldberg comes out, Heenan just goes, the crowd's chanting Dillinger.
And what were they?
No, they were chanting Goldberg.
Oh, you said instead of Goldberg. Yeah.
Like, they're chanting for Dillinger. The referee, Mickey J, at the start of the match, he confiscates a chain and a roll of quarters from DDP, which really asks I'm a big creepy lad vibe, doesn't it? Like this,
like DDP's the kind of guy hanging around like an arcade, saying to kids, "Here's a roll of quarters. You work for me now."
Yeah. So they fart about a wee bit. Then DDP goes outside and gets a mic and says that he's going to leave. If the crowd keeps chanting for Goldberg, which is such old heel hate.
And they always leave the wrong way anyway. They go, I'm going to leave, but I'm going to go through this crowded area.
Yeah,
and you're you could leave up the ramp quite quickly. You could be in your car in 5 minutes.
Goldberg follows, beats him up a wee bit, throws back into the ring. Then DDP behind the referee's back gets out some brass knuckles or something, and it's Goldberg's like, how many things are in his trunks? It's like Mary Poppins handbag. Like, just keep reaching. Oh, there's a steel chair.
There's a full yoga mat in there.
Yeah.
He almost
a yoga studio.
Or he maybe has one of those yoga mats, like those dinosaur things. You pour water on it. Like, it's a small yoga mat, and then you pour water on it. It's like...
The match slows down a lot in the middle because DDP starts using like rest holds and like heel tactics, put his feet in the ropes and the referee can't see and all that. It's not overly exciting middle of the match. Then Goldberg does the old Hulk up technique and starts shrugging it off. Kanyon and Bam Bam come out, and then Kanyon smashes, I think it's a plate.
Yeah, but it looks very...
Well, I think it cut him for real.
Yeah, it looked like it broke unusually.
Well, I remember reading one time, it was that often that fake sugar glass is nearly more dangerous than actual glass
if it breaks strangely,
because real glass breaks into bigger pieces.
Okay,
while sugar glass is like millions of tiny pieces.
That
then it gets in your eyes and all that. Okay, so Goldberg's bleeding.
He has like quite a big laceration around his neck or something, or back of his neck.
Yeah, it doesn't look great. Like, he smashes it over the back with the plate. Then DDP hits out like a rock bottom, basically, because he's the WCW People's Champion. So I think that's like, I use it as a transition move to show that you're shit rock or whatever. So then DDP distracts the referee while Bam Bam and Kanyon get into the ring. Goldberg fights them off like it's nothing.
Yeah,
like it's just nothing.
He takes out Bam Bam and Kanyon with like a double
clothesline or something, and then he spears DDP, hits the jackhammer, 1, 2, 3.
Did the do you know the referee pushed DDP into that spear?
No.
If you rewatch it, like, whatever happens before it that makes DDP's like backing off, like, because he's taking out Bam Bam and Kanyon, and DDP's backing off, going like, no. And the referee pushes him forwards into the spear. And I was watching, like, I clicked back a few times to be like, did that definitely happen? And it did. Unless the referee's like,
so strange.
The referee's like, go on now.
What do you think of this one?
Just all right.
It was all right. Yeah. It wasn't a patch. I would recommend, and anybody listen, if you haven't seen the first match, I think it's WWE put it up a few years ago on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Or it's on the network, obviously. I would give it a watch. It's much better. I mean, this was fine.
I like DDP a lot as a person, as a whole person, not the character of DDP in wrestling, but I just like the idea of DDP, starting wrestling late, looking like that. It's just all, it just shouldn't work, but it does. It's a great, I suppose for anyone listening, it's a real, like those authors that write their novel when they're like 70, you're like, you can do stuff anytime.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not wrestling.
You can't think you do wrestling.
You start wrestling about 39, did he, or something?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah. And Goldberg is like no question, he's the top star in WCW.
Oh,
nobody gets a reaction like him the whole night. And that's why I could never figure out, he only ever won the world title once.
Right.
It's just weird to me that he's just never been treated like the big deal that he should have been.
Okay.
On an unrelated note, we're going to the main event next that features Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
There's a big difference here, and you noticed this when you were watching between WCW and WWF. There's like 20 minutes left in the show, and we still have the main event to come.
Yep.
And you're like, main events are short in WCW. In WWF, it used to be like, the undercard would be a bit weak, and then the main event would carry the show. You'd have like a half-hour match or whatever. Yeah. But they're like, no.
Even just the video before it would be 5 minutes sometimes,
Very weird. So it's the main event. The World Heavyweight Championship's on the line with the immortal Hulk Hogan defending against the Icon Sting. These two had like the infamous Starrcade 97 match. Do you know about it?
I've heard about it, yeah.
That there was meant to be a slow or fast count, but then there wasn't one. So it's all, so they have a lot to live up to. Yes, the hype package featured the White Hummer. Are you familiar with the White Hummer?
No.
The whole summer, people kept getting attacked by a white Hummer, like it just driven into their cars and stuff.
Yeah.
And so Luger, to prove that Hogan wasn't on the levels, look, Sting, here's a photo of Hogan with a white Hummer, and Hogan goes, that's a white Hummer, but it's not the white Hummer, brother. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Also, there's a bit where they open the door and Hogan's in with Randy Savage in a big fluffy green coat.
Yeah. Who's sitting on it? Is that a woman?
That's Gorgeous George, his manager. He's a big silly man.
And he's like, I didn't know he was going to be in there.
Yeah. So it's a lot of contrived coincidences. So we then go to the ring, and we've got a special ring announcer, Ronan. Big Michael Buffer.
Yeah.
He's wearing a black suit with a navy shirt and a gold collar.
Yeah, so that's
fucking awful.
A lot of strange combinations.
Well, as you know, I used to fit suits, and I'm like, you don't wear a navy shirt with a black suit. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Do you like the Michael Buffer thing, like having a special ring announcer?
Actually, I think sometimes with wrestling, it actually takes it down almost. You're like the big boxing thing. Mm-hmm. I'm like, probably just I don't like boxing, but the whole big fight feel for me doesn't always come from adding someone from outside wrestling into it. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's like what he does pales in comparison next to like Howard Finkel.
Yeah.
Who like made things feel like a big deal, and he was announcing the whole show.
Yeah.
You know.
That's what, even in WWE or whatever, Lillian Garcia announcing the main event, it doesn't take away from it for me. You know.
Yeah, I think a simple thing to do that WWE does now, actually, and I think AEW does it as well, which is when it's a title match, announce them when they're in the when they're both in the ring.
Yeah,
I think that's an easy way to do it.
Yeah.
You know,
I know. Did he announce what they're wearing and stuff? He's like,
and
coming to the ring.
And he used to say like, he weighs 249.5 pounds.
Yeah, and you're like, we don't need this.
We don't need
this.
Wearing black and white.
Yeah, black and white.
I remember he did one WWE show. He did Royal Rumble 2008, and Shawn Michaels came out, and for some reason he was like, he did it weighing 220 pounds. The Heartbreak Kid. He never said Shawn Michaels at any point.
His lung capacity was like,
he's like,
Heartbreak
people know
Kid.
People
Shawn Oh, I'm out of breath.
No, so Sting comes out. Sting's got great music. I love that. Like,
fantastic music.
Orchestral, like.
Yeah, I like that video I always saw when I was growing up of the kid speaking of it. Was like,
oh yeah,
there's a man who is going to solve everything, and his name Sting. Some child, I don't know.
That sounded like the start of like an awful American election advert. You know, like there's a man who will solve everything. His name, Al Gore.
Trash piling up in your streets. Get Sting.
The Scorpion Man can. I'll also say I love Hogan's WCW music that American made.
Yeah.
Got the red.
He's got the red one running through his veins. Yeah.
Bam, bam, bam. It's such a rip off of real American, but I love it. There's no denying that people do love Hulk Hogan. Like he gets a big pop coming out.
Yep.
How do you
That's probably those people that didn't buy a ticket.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, I know who that is.
That guy.
How do you feel about the big hot dog racist?
Ambivalent, because obviously I've heard about all the racism and stuff, but I'm just sort of like, I never was into him as a kid even, so it's not like...
We're a bit young, I think, for Hogan.
Do you think so? Yeah, maybe.
Well, like, when we watched wrestling in the mid-90s,
yeah, like
so that was kind of... Hogan was gone.
I would have seen a toy of him. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, obviously, my peak, and probably your peak is like Stone Cold, The Rock, Mankind kind of trio, Triple H maybe from that.
But like, even my earliest memories would be like 93.
Yeah.
That, he was pretty much gone by then.
I remember like playing the games when I was about 7 or 6. You know, that game where... I think it was the game where it was kind of like Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, yeah.
But then Undertaker and Yokozuna seemed more impressive. Mm-hmm. And then even the early SNES game, which was not the Mortal Kombat one, the one on the either Nintendo or SNES.
It's called like Raw or
something like, and you can throw someone to the outside of the ring about like you do over the head press or something. Mm-hmm. But for me, Andre the Giant and people like that Bret Hart would have been more of a star for me growing up than Hulk Hogan, but I still remember the toy. I remember seeing my brother have a toy of him.
And he still has that thing where that's what most people who aren't wrestling fans think of wrestling. They think Hulk Hogan.
And people would have seen him in those movies. Like I would have seen him in Kindergarten or
Mr. Nanny. And
not Kindergarten Cop.
No, I wish.
I think I saw him in that. I don't know.
Who's your daddy and what does he do, brother? It's not a tumor, brother.
You can cure that with vitamins.
Yeah.
I saw him spinning that car. That was yeah. So
and no holds barred. Do you remember No Holds Barred, the one with Zeus?
Yeah.
He's like, what's that smell? Dookie. So what I find impressive about him is he does very little, but he gets the most for the amount of effort he puts in. You know, but also like the match tonight is a wee bit like other proof of he's a lot more popular before the match than he is during it. Like because of shit about
the crowd love. Like I suppose whenever you've been to a live event, do you ever get that where when you go to like OTT or something like that, the match is important. Okay, occasionally you'll pop for someone coming out, but the match is very important. Mm-hmm. But when I went to see WWE, even my wife was like, she said, I wish they would just do entrances all night.
I would love that. That would be so fun.
She was like, bring the whole roster and do everyone's entrance and make the matches as short as possible.
Yeah.
Because, okay, admittedly, that was a house kind of show and they were doing those things where they chase each other around the ring for about an hour. But it's supposed to be funny. We were like, bloody do a hold or something.
Somebody do a chin lock for the love of God.
Whereas maybe to some extent the in-ring... I've seen that Japanese match of Hulk Hogan and you go, okay, he could do it.
Yeah, it's not that he's a bad referee. He's just like, I don't need to do any of that to be over.
He's decided this is what works.
Yeah. I like just off the bell, Sting and Hogan fist bump because they're class. Yeah. And then Bret Hart comes out. And apparently he's coming out just because Michael Buffer says he's there to wish both men good luck. Like, what is the point of that?
Because he's next. Is that it?
I think he's saying he wants the winner. But the other thing is, like, there might have been something in the build-up to justify this. I presume there was. But the announcers don't explain it at all. They never say, like, oh, we remember on Nitro when Bret Hart said he wants the winner of this match or whatever.
Again, picturing those 3,000 people that turned up, they're like, why is this guy come out? And then it makes Bret Hart look weird because you're like, he's just come out just to like shake their hands and he's happy with that. Like he walks away and looks at the camera like...
What I have here is like, I don't understand why he's not wrestling. I don't think he was injured.
On the night, in general.
You're like, you tell me a show that had room for Brian Knobs doesn't have, and the Insane Clown Posse doesn't have room for Bret Hart?
Yeah.
Fucking give him Eddie Guerrero.
Do they get like appearance fees? Like lower league footballers?
I think in
football manager,
most of their contracts would have just been flat rates. You know, but they get a big salary.
WCW, the whole point was they got like a
Hogan
salary.
got money for pay-per-view appearances, but I don't think anybody else did.
It wasn't like, if you were there, the tickets were,
But like, give him Eddie Guerrero for 20 minutes. You don't even need a story. Just give them a good match.
Yeah.
It's like, I just don't get it.
But I feel like at that time, WCW, when you watch this whole pay-per-view, most of the matches are like a great, when you almost break it down, it looks like a great person against a silly person. Like they've gone, it's almost like, I don't know if you have a job where you work in a very small team. It's almost like they've gone, that person's shit. Stick with that good person, that'll work.
We'll do a shift for them.
And then the person who's good goes, fuck's sake, I'm tired.
The start of the match is... Oh, actually, I have here as well. I know this is a bit of a weird comment, but Hulk Hogan's hair is very well conditioned.
Very well conditioned.
It's very nice hair.
But I couldn't... Whenever his back was to the camera, that reverse frown he has on the back of his head is very hard to look at. You know, like it's really difficult to see.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you
mean. Like either you get men in Northern Ireland that have that. In like that's actually one thing about wrestlers and their hair that I noticed in this pay-per-view. Perry Saturn was the main culprit, but bald? Yes, I mean bald wrestlers are quite hard to look at because when they're straining, a lot of veins, and you realize all the vulnerability of the human skull.
So what you're saying is that I couldn't wrestle?
You've still got a bit. You know,
yeah, not much.
It's clinging on there. Like you can't see veins or anything.
No.
As long as when you're doing stand-up, you don't get really worked up again.
The start of the match is like respectful face versus face kind of technical wrestling. But then Hogan sort of subtly starts to be the heel in the match, which presumably is to make us think, oh, maybe he is. He isn't on the level, which I suppose is quite clever in a way. Like he begs off Sting a few times and he chokes him with a camera cable.
Yep.
Which you don't get anymore because the cameras are all wireless. You're like, come on, choke him with a cable.
I'm choking you with Wi-Fi.
Yeah. The match is boring though.
It's
just punches and kicks.
It's unfair because the pay-per-view is 3 hours long, but every wrestling pay-per-view really, in a sense, struggles if it's long and the main event is boring. The main event has to be extra entertaining.
Yeah.
To live up to, and I think it has to grab you at that end. You're at the end of a pay-per-view. Either give us something give us a surprise where something happens that you're like, I didn't expect that, or just give us a really good wrestling match.
Yeah,
like me and you went on your stag. Was that your stag, or was that the next one we went to?
That was my stag. Yeah,
your stag, and them two are
But you're going to have to give context.
Oh yeah, we went on your stag to OTT Scrapper Mania 2017 or 18? 18. Zack Sabre Jr. was fighting Jordan Devlin, and we were really excited for it. But the event was about 3 hours long as well?
It was nearly 5 hours.
Nearly 5 hours, yeah. And we were having all those pints that were making us sleepy, but not drunk. So we weren't hyped up or anything. We were just, our bladders were full and we were tired. And they did that kind of tactical wrestling match, which you would love to watch on its own. Mm-hmm. But after that,
or in this first half of the show.
Yeah.
But the problem was we'd already seen, wasn't Keith Lee against Minoru Suzuki?
Yeah.
And Matt Riddle against
Will Ospreay.
And you're like, you don't want it.
You don't need it. And that's not a criticism. That's just like,
that's actually a criticism of the promoter, really, in terms of match placement.
Like they could have put Zack Sabre against someone else and it wouldn't have degraded him. You know, obviously he maybe wanted the main event, but there were so many other people on. Yeah. But this for me was that feeling of distraction. You know,
Hogan does a back rake.
Yeah,
and he bites Sting and all. And I always thought, see, even as a good guy, Hogan was always a dick. Have you seen the '92 Royal Rumble?
No,
that's the one Ric Flair wins. Well. The final three are Hogan, Flair, and Sid. And Sid and Hogan are mates, but it's every man for himself. So Sid chucks Hogan out, and Hogan gets really annoyed and grabs Sid's arm and allows Flair to throw Sid out. And you're like, but he's fair in the rules of the match.
Yeah, and he's still Mr.
Oh, I'm the hero for the kids.
Yeah.
Here for you two kids. Sour grapes, brother. That doesn't work for me. Right. So we get obviously Hogan. You're always building up to the stinger splash, the Hulk up, Hulk up to the Hulk up. So Sting hits one stinger splash, then a second, but the third Hogan moves, and then he's all shaking and brother. So he does his 3 punches, gets the big boot, he hits the leg drop, and then DDP's there all of a sudden and knocks out Nick Patrick, the referee, just as Hogan's hitting the leg drop.
Yeah.
He then hits Hogan with a diamond cutter. Sting covers. He gets 2. I don't know why DDP hates Hogan now. I don't know what that's about. So then Bret Hart comes back out in his big jumper. He did have a very comfy jumper on, I forgot to mention that. He comes out and he attacks DDP. Right, well, that makes sense at least because you're like, he wants a winner because he wants to challenge the winner, right? Then Sid Vicious arrives, but Hogan just boots him in the face. He didn't get a move in. And then Lex Luger arrives. So Luger has a baseball bat, but Hogan hits him and he drops it. And then Sting picks up God, this is so fucking convoluted.
Yeah.
Sting then picks up the baseball bat, and Luger's in the corner going, "Oh, don't hurt me."
And they're
Hulk.
like,
and Hulk is going, "He's the guy, brother.
Yeah.
He's the guy."
But you're like, is he even?
I don't know if he is. So then Sting hits.
Yeah, which takes a long time.
It's far too long.
Yep.
Hits Hogan with the bat a few times. Hogan collapses, and then he puts Hogan in the Scorpion Deathlock. Charles Robinson comes running out, and he's like, "Oh, Hogan's out. Stop!" So Hogan didn't give up. He didn't get pinned, but he loses the title. That was a messy fucking ending.
It was, yeah. It was confusing because of the amount of people involved. I was like, well, if Luger had come out maybe and Bret Hart had come out, that would have been enough.
Yeah, that's actually all it needed. Like,
Luger was very involved.
Bret Hart tries to stop it, but Luger hits Hart with a bat.
Yeah, and he's out.
And then you do him in the corner, Hogan.
Yeah.
You didn't need DDP and Sid. Why were they there?
Is DDP aligned with anyone at that time?
Well, it was just Bam Bam and Canyon.
Yeah.
So
and
Sid was aligned with Rick Steiner and Randy Savage.
Wanting to be involved in that because he's undefeated.
I wonder, is it like
four-way match?
Is Hogan like backstage going, if I'm going to lose, I want like 5 people to attack me? Like,
I want to look like unstoppable. Yeah. But what even was the point anyway? Because he's pointing to Luger, being like, he's the guy. But then
he's saying to Sting, like, I'm not the bad guy. He's the bad guy.
But Luger hasn't attacked Sting anyway, so.
No, but what he's been trying to do is make Sting think Hogan is evil.
Yes.
But the actual twist was Sting was the evil one all the time. So that's the first time that Sting's been a heel since coming to WCW.
Yeah.
Which I suppose is interesting. Like, that's they've went, right, Bischoff's gone, we need to do something new. And they've went, let's make Sting, who's a heel, for the first time.
Something to do.
Something new. But the problem was that in WCW for the 6 months before that, everybody was turning all the time.
So fans,
it's like, there's no impact. If nobody had turned in ages and then Sting went heel, you're like, oh my God, Sting's went heel for the first time.
If you think about all the great turns, you're like, it has to come in a time where it's not just flip-flopping all the time.
No.
And you don't just feel it over, you're like
oversaturated with them. So did you notice though, right after the match, somebody throws, I think it's a hot dog, and it hits Luger in the back and he's got like a big mustard stain on his back. So we don't really get much of an explanation. The show like quite abruptly fades out. Did you notice? It didn't really logo or anything. No. It just went like Luger and Sting are on the ramp, kind of like we're buddies now, and it just straight out.
Yeah, they
don't say like tune into Nitro or. So that was WCW Fall Brawl '99.
That was.
What do you think?
Longish, but for someone who hasn't watched WCW much, I mean, obviously, we talked about it earlier. I knew Jericho wasn't there, but I thought La Parka or someone
La Parka's still there. He's just not on the show.
So I thought that kind of era might still be going. Like I said, I suppose the main takeaway is a lot of good people on the roster, but jumbled around in weird matches with weird people.
Like,
a lot of people carrying
talent on that.
Yeah, like Goldberg could have fought Sid or so. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people fought people. We were like, that would have been a better match. Like you said, like Bret Hart against Benoit or something would have been amazing.
Yeah,
but we'll make Sid have a good match. So it is like a workplace going, we've got some really good people here, we've got some really bad people, we'll make the good people drag the bad people up, and that makes everyone go down to like a
mediocre level. I mean, it wasn't appallingly bad or anything.
No, it wasn't.
But you can see why, like, so I looked up after I watched the show. I was like, what were WWF and ECW doing this month? You know, so the following week was Anarchy Rules, which was ECW. So their main event was Taz, Mike Awesome, and Masato Tanaka for the world title. And the WWF did the 6-pack challenge, which was, so Austin was the ringside enforcer, and then it was Triple H, The Rock, Mankind, Big Show, Kane, and the British Bulldog. And you're like,
that's a pretty. You
can see why WCW was, because actually on paper you could make the argument that WCW has the most star power of any of the
I mean,
companies.
if you think about having Hulk Hogan, having Macho Man, Bret Hart, having Goldberg at that time,
Ric Flair's not even on the show.
Sting,
Bret Hart, Lex Luger, Like,
but that's the problem. They're
Eddie
all
Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Sid Vicious. Like,
you could argue they're all on that same level, so they're all confused about who's like. Whereas you look at WWF at that time, whatever, you go, they know. Like Kane sort of always knew he wasn't on their level. Like, but he's
Austin and Rock are the top guys, and they want Hogan to be the top guy, but he's too old.
He's too old, yeah. And Sting is sort of also that,
Yeah.
But then the other guys would be like, well, I'm as good as Sting. Bret Hart would be like, well,
Goldberg should be the guy, really. Yeah. But then Goldberg's limited in the ring, so
Yeah.
So I can tell you that the show did a 0.3 buy rate, which was the lowest for any WWF or WCW pay-per-view up to that point.
Wow. Even with the Sting Hulk Hogan event.
Which you think would sell, but... Yeah. And that's worrying, I think, if you're WCW, because you're like, right, so people won't even buy it. Our two big stars fighting each other. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
And we had to give out 3,000 free tickets. Yeah. So, Okay,
I mean,
so...
around that time, Craig David was probably worried as well. And he... He's probably like, I've released 7 days.
Oh, God. He's got... What's Your Flavour just didn't land in the same way.
I mean, he did try... He booked the Odyssey.
He did a song with Sting.
Did he? Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Rise and Fall. And that's also one of the...
He was the wee boy in the opening video.
That's one of the WCW books as well, The Rise and Fall.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you 3 things about the show, right? So I'm going to ask you for your highlight, your highlight match, low light match, and your rating out of 5. So let's start with, what's your match of the night?
Match of the night is going to go to the first match. Mm-hmm. Kind of weird because there's so many low points in it. But Eddie Guerrero was so great to see. Yeah. So I know that's a bit, whatever you want to call it, sentimental, but what about you?
Say he's like your pick of the night?
Yeah, exactly. So weirdly, there was no real match tonight, but Eddie Guerrero was so good that...
Yeah, that's why I picked that match. Well, I was like,
you picked that too?
I also thought that was the match that exceeded my expectations the most.
That's true.
So I was like, this is going to be terrible. Yeah. It's such lopsided teams, but it was fine. And your worst low light of the night?
Oh, well, low light night is the West Hollywood Blondes just existing, because I didn't know that existed till now. So I'd always heard about, I knew Goldust did a bit of like stuff, but you go, well, at least that was homophobia with a sort of, at least with a brain.
Oh, right,
which is worse. Anyway, no, but this was just that guy was annoying to look at. So
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and for yourself,
I thought DDP Goldberg, not because it was the worst match, but it was the one that disappointed me the most, because I was like, their first one was so good.
Yeah,
and actually it makes more sense now because DDP, the first one was two faces. You've now got a heel DDP, and I actually think he's quite a good heel, because actually I think it works for him to be like, I'm on the Rock's level when he's a heel, because he's not.
Yeah.
And that's funny, but when he's a face going, I'm on the Rock's level, you're like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
Are you? I mean, there was a couple of disappointing matches in there,
but
you expected them not to be great. Yeah. Other low light was Shane Douglas's wee belly top. I just thought that was no need. There's no need.
That wee punch.
Yeah.
You're like,
and what would you give the show out of 5?
I suppose in a weird way, it's very boring. I suppose I give it a 3.
Okay.
Because it was like, expectations was a 1.
Yeah.
And it probably, I watched the whole thing and I wasn't like going, oh. Yeah. It never went like, oh. Like, I hope
apart from the West Hollywood Blonde.
Yeah. I was like, I hope that my iPad crashes here. But yeah, so I suppose a 3, and it kind of like, what's coming next? Mm-hmm. Who knows? I don't know. But I don't. I've sat through a lot of pay-per-views in my life, and I was like, that was just like if WWE had a pay-per-view, in like February, you're like, that's what it would be like. Actually, what is in February? What one's that? That's usually all right, isn't it? That's Elimination Chamber, is it? No?
Yeah, it is. Elimination Chamber is February.
Okay, yeah.
But I take what you mean.
Those weird months where you're like,
May.
Yeah. You're like, that'll be
over the limit or something.
Couple of decent matches, a couple of people appear. That's all right.
Yeah. So
what would you go for?
I'm going to say about a 2.5.
Aye.
I think it was fine. I obviously have a better idea what's coming. I think there is better coming, but also there's a lot of shit. But I do think that there are certain things that they do over the next few months that are better.
Yeah.
And what it is at the minute is the product is stagnant. It just needs a fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
Which is why, very neatly, it's going to bring us on to the next part of the pod, which is Bill Bush brings in Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara from WCW, or from WWF, to give it a big shake-up. And they do, don't get me wrong, they give it a big shake-up. I just don't know if it's for good or for worse. I mean, this podcast is called The Worst There Was, so spoiler alert, it's not great.
Yep.
We're going to skip forward about a month to the first week of TV, which I believe is the October 13th Nitro, and then that will be the October 16th.
And that's the start of Vince Russo's.
That's Vince Russo, the first show's in charge, which from memory is the last week. There's only like a week or two before Halloween Havoc then, so they don't really get to book the next pay-per-view.
Okay.
But they have control over the outcomes, and then they're in full charge until, well, we'll see.
Late Jan, yeah.
So that'll do it for our first episode. Have you had fun on your first ever podcasting episode?
I have enjoyed speaking into a microphone with no audience.
Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? It's a change. Well, I mean, to be fair, the way we started in Comedy Row and speaking into a microphone with no audience was.
I've spoken to 2 or 3 people before,
and you're speaking to one now, so it's not really that big a leap. Okay, so if you want to get in touch with us, you can start following us on your social media platform of choice. We'll be on Instagram, we'll be on Twitter, presumably we'll be on Facebook. We have an email address. I'll put all those details in the episode description because I haven't set them up yet. But I will, and then we can plug them. And also, if you enjoyed the show, please follow or subscribe on whatever platform you listen to. Give us a wee review if you have that option. Share it around, tell a friend. You know all the word of mouth stuff. But this has actually been very fun. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll enjoy listening to us talk about some of what that may or may not be, but are certainly considered to be some of the worst periods in wrestling history. This one's okay. It's okay.
We'll be fine.
And it's alright. We're good enough friends that this won't poison our relationship, but we may not want to see each other for a while.
I may not want to look at men in pants for a while.
Speak for yourself, my friend. Speak for yourself. It's me from the West Hollywood Bloods. Right, well, that'll do it for the inaugural episode of The Worst It Was. We'll see you down the road with the first...
we'll catch you later down the road.
Get your ass down the road. We'll be back with the first week of the Vince Russo era WCW, but until then, I've been Alan Irwin.
And I've been Ronan.
And this has been The Worst It Was. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.